The morning sun cast long shadows across the hospital corridor as William walked slowly toward the room where Kate lay sleeping. His footsteps echoed softly against the polished floors, each step feeling heavier than the last. The doctors had prepared him for this moment, but nothing could truly ready a person for saying goodbye to the love of their life. Kate had been fighting her illness with the same grace and determination she brought to everything else in her life. For months she had smiled through the treatments, held his hand during the difficult conversations with specialists, and continued to worry more about him and their children than herself. Even when the pain became unbearable, she would squeeze his fingers and whisper that everything would be all right. The medical team had done everything possible. The best doctors in the country had worked tirelessly, trying experimental treatments and exploring every option. But sometimes, even with all the resources in the world, some battles cannot be won. The cancer had spread too quickly, too aggressively, and now they were facing the reality that their time together was coming to an end. William paused outside her door, taking a deep breath. Through the small window he could see Kate's peaceful face, finally free from the pain that had shadowed her features for so long. The machines around her bed beeped quietly, monitoring her vital signs as she drifted in and out of consciousness. Her family had been there earlier, sharing their own private moments of goodbye, but now it was just the two of them. He thought about their journey together, how they had met as young people full of dreams and hopes for the future. Their love story had played out in the public eye, but the quiet moments between them had always been sacred. The way she laughed at his terrible jokes, how she could calm his worries with just a look, the way she made him want to be a better man every single day. Their children were staying with close family friends, shielded from the harsh reality of what was happening. They had said their goodbyes in their own innocent way, not fully understanding that Mommy might not be coming home. Kate had hugged them extra tight that morning, memorizing the feel of their small arms around her neck and the sweet scent of their hair. As William finally entered the room, Kate's eyes fluttered open. Despite everything, she managed a small smile when she saw him. Her voice was barely a whisper, but her eyes still held all the love and warmth that had captured his heart years ago. She reached out her hand, and he took it gently, feeling how fragile she had become. The afternoon light filtered through the hospital window, creating patterns on the wall that seemed to dance and shift. Outside, life continued as normal. People were going about their daily routines, unaware that in this quiet room, two hearts were preparing to say the most difficult goodbye imaginable. William pulled his chair closer to her bed, knowing that these might be their final moments together. Kate's breathing was becoming more labored, but her grip on his hand remained steady. She was trying to tell him something with her eyes, some message that words could never adequately express. Years of being together had taught them to communicate without speaking, to understand each other's thoughts and feelings through glances and touches. The medical staff moved quietly around them, checking monitors and adjusting settings, but they seemed to understand the sacred nature of this moment. They worked with respectful efficiency, giving the couple as much privacy as possible while ensuring Kate's comfort. The head nurse, who had grown fond of Kate during her stay, quietly placed a box of tissues on the bedside table and squeezed William's shoulder gently before stepping back. As evening approached, William knew that their time was running out. Kate's eyes were closing more frequently and her breathing was becoming increasingly shallow. He leaned closer to her, whispering all the things he had always meant to say but somehow never found the right moment for. He told her about the dreams he had for their children, the places he wished they could have traveled together, and how grateful he was for every moment they had shared. The room fell into a peaceful silence, broken only by the gentle sounds of the medical equipment and Kate's quiet breathing. William held her hand and watched her face, memorizing every detail, knowing that soon all he would have left would be memories. But even in this heartbreaking moment, he felt grateful for the love they had shared and the beautiful life they had built together, however brief it had been. The night hours stretched endlessly as William maintained his vigil beside Kate's bed. Sleep was impossible, even though exhaustion weighed heavily on his shoulders. Every few minutes he would study her face, searching for signs of discomfort or distress, ready to call for help if needed. The nurses checked on them regularly, their soft-soled shoes making barely a sound as they moved through their routines. Kate's condition had stabilized somewhat during the evening, giving them precious additional time together, She would drift in and out of consciousness, sometimes squeezing his hand when she sensed his presence, other times simply breathing peacefully as he watched over her. During her more alert moments, they would share looks that conveyed everything they needed to say to each other. Around midnight, Kate's breathing became more regular, and she seemed to find some comfort in sleep. William used this time to call their closest family members, updating them on her condition and letting them know that the end was near. His voice remained steady during these difficult conversations, but inside, his heart was breaking into pieces that he wasn't sure could ever be put back together. Their family doctor arrived in the early morning hours, having driven through the night to be with them. He was not just their physician, but also a longtime friend who had delivered their children and celebrated many happy occasions with them. His presence brought William some comfort, knowing that Kate was surrounded by people who truly cared about her well-being and dignity during these final hours. As dawn broke outside the hospital window, Kate opened her eyes again and seemed more aware of her surroundings. She looked directly at William, and for a moment it was as if the illness had never happened. Her eyes were clear and filled with love, just like the day they had met. She mouthed the words, "I love you," and managed to smile, that same radiant smile that had lit up countless photographs over the years. William leaned down and kissed her forehead gently, tasting the salt of his own tears. He whispered back his love for her, telling her how proud he was of her strength and courage throughout this difficult journey. He promised her that he would take care of their children and make sure they always knew how much their mother loved them. He would tell them stories about her kindness, her laughter, and the way she made everyone around her feel special. The morning brought a parade of visitors, each wanting to pay their respects and say their own goodbyes. Kate's sister arrived first, followed by her parents, who had been her pillars of strength throughout her life. Close friends came and went, sharing memories and offering words of comfort to both Kate and William. Each visitor left something behind, whether it was a favorite flower, a cherished photograph, or simply the warmth of their presence. Kate seemed to draw energy from these visits, staying alert longer than anyone had expected. She listened as people shared stories about how she had touched their lives, how her kindness had made a difference in ways both big and small. Even though speaking was difficult for her, she managed to acknowledge each person with her eyes, letting them know that their words meant everything to her. The hospital room began to fill with flowers and cards from people around the world who had heard about Kate's condition. Nurses brought in arrangements that lined the windowsills and filled every available surface with color and fragrance. The outpouring of love and support was overwhelming, demonstrating just how many lives Kate had touched through her work and her genuine care for others. By afternoon, Kate was becoming more tired, but she remained peaceful and surrounded by love. William never left her side, holding her hand and stroking her hair as she rested. He found himself thinking about their wedding day, how beautiful she had looked walking down the aisle toward him, how they had promised to love each other in sickness and in health. They had kept that promise completely, supporting each other through every challenge life had thrown their way. The medical team continued to monitor Kate's condition, adjusting her medication to ensure she remained comfortable. They spoke in hushed tones, respecting the sacred nature of what was happening in the room. The head nurse had worked in hospice care for many years and had seen countless families through similar situations. But even she was moved by the profound love and grace that William and Kate demonstrated during this most difficult time. As the sun began to set again, casting a golden glow through the hospital window, Kate's breathing became more labored. William could sense that the final moments were approaching, and he gathered his strength to be present for her in the way she needed most. He continued to hold her hand, letting her know through his touch that she was not alone and that she was deeply loved. The second evening brought an unexpected calmness to the hospital room. Kate's vital signs had stabilized once again, and the medical team expressed cautious optimism that she might have a few more days than initially expected. This news filled William with both relief and renewed heartache, as it meant more precious time together but also prolonged the agony of knowing what was inevitable. During these quiet hours, Kate surprised everyone by becoming more alert and talkative than she had been in days. She asked to see photographs of their children, smiling weakly as William showed her pictures on his phone. Her eyes lingered on each image, as if she was trying to memorize every detail of their faces. She whispered instructions about their favorite bedtime stories, their preferences for breakfast, and the special songs that helped them fall asleep. Kate also asked for her journal, a leather-bound book where she had been writing letters to their children for months. She had started this project when her diagnosis became serious, wanting to leave behind words of wisdom, encouragement, and love for them to read when they were older. With shaking hands, she managed to write a few more lines, though the effort clearly exhausted her. William was amazed by her determination to take care of everyone else, even in these circumstances. She asked about the staff members who had been caring for her, wanting to make sure they knew how grateful she was for their kindness and professionalism. She remembered details about their personal lives, asking William to send flowers to a nurse whose daughter was getting married, and to make a donation to a charity that was important to one of her doctors. As the night progressed, Kate began sharing memories that William had never heard before. She talked about her childhood, about dreams she had harbored as a young girl, and about the moment she knew she wanted to spend her life with him. Her voice was weak, but her words were clear and filled with emotion. She told him about times when she had been proud of him, moments when his kindness had touched her heart, and how grateful she was for the life they had built together. William found himself laughing through his tears as Kate recounted funny stories from their early days together. She remembered embarrassing moments that he thought she had forgotten, sweet gestures that had seemed insignificant to him, but had meant the world to her, and quiet moments of happiness that she had treasured. These conversations gave them both a sense of celebration amid the sadness, a chance to honor their love story rather than just mourn its ending. The hospital chaplain visited during the early morning hours, offering prayers and comfort to both of them. Kate had always been a person of faith, finding strength and peace in her spiritual beliefs. The chaplain's presence brought her visible comfort, and they spent time in quiet prayer together. William, despite his own struggles with faith during this difficult time, found himself grateful for anything that brought Kate peace. Their children's drawings and handmade cards covered one wall of the room, colorful reminders of the innocent love waiting at home. Kate would often gaze at these creations, her eyes filling with tears as she thought about all the milestones she would miss in their lives. William promised her that he would save everything, that their children would always know how much their mother had loved them and how proud she was of them. The third day brought more visitors, including colleagues from Kate's charitable work who wanted to express their gratitude for her dedication and service. They shared stories about the projects she had championed, the people she had helped, and the lasting impact of her efforts. Kate listened with obvious pleasure, though she downplayed her own contributions and instead praised the work of others. One particularly moving visitor was a young woman whose life Kate had changed through her involvement with a local shelter. She had overcome addiction and homelessness with Kate's support, and had gone on to become a counselor herself. Her tears of gratitude and her promise to continue Kate's work in helping others provided a profound reminder of the positive legacy Kate was leaving behind. As afternoon turned to evening, Kate asked William to help her record a video message for their children. Despite her weakened condition, she summoned the strength to speak directly to the camera, telling each child how much she loved them and sharing hopes for their futures. The process was emotionally exhausting for everyone involved, but Kate insisted on completing it, knowing it would be a precious gift for her family. The medical team had been monitoring Kate's condition closely, and as the third evening arrived, they noticed subtle changes that suggested her body was beginning to prepare for the end. Her breathing patterns were shifting, and she was sleeping more deeply between periods of wakefulness. William understood what these signs meant, and he began to prepare himself emotionally for the final farewell that was approaching. The fourth morning arrived with an unusual stillness, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Kate's condition had taken a noticeable turn during the night, and the medical team worked quietly to adjust her care while maintaining her comfort. William had not left her side, existing on catnaps and the occasional cup of coffee brought by the compassionate nursing staff. Kate's periods of wakefulness were becoming shorter, but when she was alert, her mind remained remarkably clear. She used these precious moments to share final thoughts and wishes with William. She asked him to promise that he would find happiness again someday, though the very idea seemed impossible to him in that moment. She worried about him being alone, about who would take care of him the way she had, and about how he would manage the overwhelming grief that was surely coming. During one particularly lucid period, Kate asked William to bring her wedding ring closer so she could look at it. The simple band had been a symbol of their commitment and love for so many years, and now it seemed to represent everything they were losing. She twisted it slowly on her finger, remembering their wedding day and all the anniversaries they had celebrated together. She asked William to keep it safe and perhaps give it to their daughter when she was older. The hospital staff had become like an extended family during these difficult days. They moved through their duties with extra gentleness, understanding that they were witnessing something profound and sacred. Many of them had worked in healthcare for years, but they later said that William and Kate's love story had touched them in ways they would never forget. Their grace under such terrible circumstances had inspired everyone who cared for them. Kate's breathing became more irregular as the day progressed, but she remained peaceful. William found himself talking to her constantly, sharing random thoughts and memories, telling her about the weather outside, describing the flowers that continued to arrive from well-wishers around the world. He wasn't sure if she could hear him during her deeper sleep periods, but he needed to keep talking, to maintain their connection for as long as possible. Afternoon brought their closest family members back to the hospital. Kate's parents sat quietly in the corner, their faces etched with the particular pain that comes from watching a child suffer. They had raised Kate to be strong and independent, and even now, they marveled at her courage and dignity. Their own grief was mixed with immense pride in the woman their daughter had become and the love story she had lived. William's family arrived as well, offering their support and sharing in the vigil. Despite the formal protocols and public scrutiny that often surrounded their lives, in this moment they were simply a family facing an unthinkable loss. The usual boundaries and ceremonies were set aside in favor of human compassion and shared sorrow. Kate's sister brought photo albums filled with pictures from their childhood, and together they looked through images of birthday parties, family vacations, and milestone moments. Kate's eyes would light up when she saw certain photographs, and she would manage weak smiles as happy memories surfaced. These pictures told the story of a life filled with love, laughter, and meaningful relationships. As evening approached, Kate asked to see their children one more time. William had been hesitant to bring them back to the hospital, wanting to protect them from the trauma of seeing their mother in her final hours. But Kate's request was gentle but insistent, and arrangements were made for a brief visit. The children came with their caretakers, still not fully understanding the gravity of the situation, but sensing that something important was happening. The reunion was both heartbreaking and beautiful. Kate summoned strength she didn't seem to have, sitting up slightly and opening her arms to embrace her children. They climbed carefully onto the bed, snuggling close to their mother as she whispered words of love and encouragement. She told them to be good for their father, to take care of each other, and to always remember how much she loved them. After the children left, Kate seemed to sink deeper into exhaustion, but there was also a sense of completion on her face. She had said goodbye to the people who mattered most to her, had shared her love and final wishes, and had done everything she could to prepare her family for life without her. The peace that settled over her features was profound and unmistakable. The medical team continued their careful monitoring, adjusting medications to ensure Kate's comfort while respecting the family's wishes for minimal intervention. They had seen many families through similar situations, but they recognized something special in the dignity and love that surrounded Kate's bedside. Their professional care was enhanced by genuine emotional investment in this family's well-being. As the fourth night settled over the hospital, William positioned his chair as close to Kate's bed as possible. He held her hand gently, feeling the pulse that had been his companion for so many years growing weaker and more irregular. The machines around them hummed softly, monitoring vital signs that were gradually declining despite everyone's hopes and prayers. The fifth day dawned gray and misty, as if nature itself was mourning alongside the family gathered in the hospital room. Kate's breathing had become more labored during the night, and the medical team had made subtle adjustments to ensure her comfort while preparing William and the family for what appeared to be the final chapter of their journey together. William had spent the night alternating between holding Kate's hand and gently stroking her hair, finding small ways to provide comfort even as his own heart was breaking. He noticed how peaceful she looked despite everything, as if she had found a kind of acceptance that eluded him completely. Her face, though drawn from the illness, still held traces of the beauty that had first captured his attention years ago. The morning brought an unexpected visitor in the form of Kate's childhood best friend, who had flown across the country when she learned how serious the situation had become. The two women had remained close despite the different paths their lives had taken, and her presence brought Kate a moment of genuine joy. Though Kate could barely speak, her eyes sparkled with recognition and affection when she saw her old friend. They shared a wordless communication that spoke to decades of friendship, inside jokes, shared secrets, and mutual support through life's ups and downs. Her friend sat quietly beside the bed, holding Kate's other hand and occasionally sharing funny memories from their school days. These glimpses into Kate's life before marriage and motherhood reminded everyone of the full, rich person she had always been beyond her public roles. As the hours passed, Kate seemed to drift further away from the physical world, though she would occasionally squeeze William's hand or flutter her eyelids in response to his voice. The medical staff explained that hearing was often the last sense to fade, encouraging William to continue talking to her even when she appeared to be unconscious. He found comfort in this advice, maintaining a steady stream of gentle conversation and reassurance. William began reading aloud from Kate's favorite book, a collection of poetry that she had treasured since college. His voice, though thick with emotion, remained steady as he read verses about love, hope, and the eternal nature of deep connections between souls. He had never been particularly drawn to poetry himself, but through Kate, he had learned to appreciate the way certain words could capture feelings that seemed impossible to express. The afternoon brought a visit from their family priest, who had officiated at their wedding and baptized their children. His presence provided spiritual comfort not just to Kate, but to the entire family who had gathered to support them. He led them in prayers that had been said over countless deathbeds throughout history, words that connected their personal grief to the universal human experience of loss and the hope for something beyond. Kate's condition continued to decline gradually, but she remained peaceful throughout the process. William marveled at her grace even in these circumstances, the way she seemed to be managing her own departure with the same thoughtfulness and consideration for others that had characterized her entire life. Even unconscious, she appeared to be trying to make this as easy as possible for everyone who loved her. The hospital room had taken on an almost sacred quality, filled with flowers, photographs, cards, and mementos that told the story of a life well lived and deeply cherished. The nursing staff moved through their duties with extra reverence, understanding that they were witnessing something profound. Many of them had shared personal moments with Kate during her stay, and they grieved alongside the family. As evening approached, Kate's breathing became more irregular, with longer pauses between each breath. William felt a change in the atmosphere of the room, a sense that the final moments were truly approaching. He called for their immediate family members, who gathered around the bed to share in these last precious minutes. The circle of love surrounding Kate was complete, representing all the relationships that had given her life meaning and joy. William leaned close to Kate's ear and whispered words of love and gratitude, thanking her for the happiness she had brought to his life and promising to honor her memory by living with the same kindness and generosity she had always shown. He told her it was okay to let go, that he would take care of their children and make sure they always knew how much their mother loved them. The machines monitoring Kate's vital signs showed the gradual slowing of her heart rate, but her face remained serene and peaceful. William was struck by how natural this process seemed, despite the medical equipment and hospital setting. In the end, it was simply a matter of love and letting go, of holding tight to someone, while simultaneously allowing them the freedom to leave. The medical team stood respectfully at a distance, ready to provide support if needed, but understanding that this was a private family moment. Their professional expertise was less important now than their human compassion and their ability to witness this farewell with dignity and respect. The head nurse quietly dimmed the lights, creating a more intimate atmosphere for what everyone sensed would be the final hours of Kate's life. The final evening brought an almost ethereal quality to the hospital room. The setting sun cast golden rays through the window, creating patterns of light and shadow that seemed to dance across Kate's peaceful face. William had positioned himself as close as possible to her bed, his hand intertwined with hers, feeling each breath as if it were precious beyond measure. Family members took turns sitting quietly beside Kate, each finding their own way to say goodbye. Her mother held her hand and hummed lullabies from Kate's childhood, the same melodies that had comforted her daughter through scraped knees and childhood fears. Her father, a man of few words, simply sat in silence, his presence a steady anchor of love and support that needed no verbal expression. William found himself thinking about all the ordinary moments they had shared, the thousands of small interactions that had woven the fabric of their life together. He remembered breakfast conversations over coffee, late-night talks when they couldn't sleep, the way she would reach for his hand while watching television, and how she always knew exactly what to say when he was worried or stressed about something. The medical team had explained that Kate's body was gradually shutting down, but that she was comfortable and not in pain. They assured William that the process was peaceful and natural, even though watching it felt anything but natural to those who loved her. The monitor showed her vital signs growing weaker, but her breathing remained steady and calm. As the hours passed, Kate seemed to exist in a space between this world and whatever came next. Occasionally her eyelids would flutter, or she would make a soft sound that suggested she was still aware of the people surrounding her. William continued to talk to her, sharing random thoughts and memories, telling her about the sunset outside her window, describing the flowers that continued to arrive from people around the world who had been touched by their story. Near midnight, Kate's breathing began to change noticeably. The pauses between breaths grew longer, and William could sense that the end was very near. He called softly to the family members who were resting in the waiting area, and they quickly gathered around her bed. The room filled with quiet whispers of love and gratitude, final words that each person needed to share with Kate. William leaned close to Kate's ear and whispered the words that had become their private motto over the years, a simple phrase that encompassed all their hopes and dreams for their life together. He told her how grateful he was for every moment they had shared, how proud he was of the woman she had become, and how their love would live on in their children and in his heart forever. Kate's sister began singing softly, a hymn that had been meaningful to their family for generations. Her voice, though wavering with emotion, filled the room with melody that seemed to provide comfort not just to Kate, but to everyone present. Other family members joined in, creating a gentle chorus of love that surrounded Kate as she prepared for her final journey. The medical staff stood respectfully at a distance, their professional duties temporarily set aside in favor of simply bearing witness to this profound moment of human love and loss. They had seen countless families through similar situations, but they later said that William and Kate's goodbye had moved them in ways they would never forget. William felt Kate's hand grow cooler in his grasp, but he continued to hold it tightly, unwilling to break their physical connection until absolutely necessary. He watched her face for any signs of distress, but she appeared completely peaceful, as if she were simply falling into a deep, comfortable sleep after a very long and tiring day. The rhythm of her breathing continued to slow, with longer and longer pauses between each breath. William found himself holding his own breath during these intervals, willing her to continue even though he knew that letting go was what she needed to do. The room had fallen into complete silence except for the soft sounds of the medical equipment and Kate's increasingly shallow breathing. Around 2 a.m, Kate took what would be her final breath. It was quiet and peaceful, just like everything else about the way she had faced this final challenge. For several moments, nobody moved or spoke, as if they were all waiting to see if she might breathe again. But gradually they realized that Kate had slipped away, leaving behind only the profound love that had filled the room and the memories that would sustain her family in the difficult days ahead. William continued to hold her hand even after her breathing stopped, unable to accept that their physical connection was truly over. The medical team waited respectfully for him to be ready before stepping forward to confirm what everyone already knew. In that moment, surrounded by family and filled with both overwhelming grief and tremendous gratitude for the love they had shared, William began the difficult process of learning to live without the woman who had been his partner, best friend, and greatest love. The silence that followed Kate's passing was unlike anything William had ever experienced. It felt both eternal and fleeting, a moment suspended between the life they had shared and the uncertain future that stretched ahead. The medical team moved with quiet efficiency, turning off monitors and beginning the gentle process of caring for Kate's body with the same respect and dignity they had shown. Throughout her final days, William found himself unable to let go of Kate's hand immediately. Her fingers, though growing cold, still felt familiar and comforting in his grasp. The wedding ring she had worn for so many years caught the light from the bedside lamp, a simple band that represented promises kept and love that had endured through every challenge life had presented. He gently kissed her forehead one final time, whispering words of love that only she would ever hear. Family members began the difficult process of saying their individual goodbyes. Kate's mother smoothed her daughter's hair one last time, remembering the little girl who had grown into such a remarkable woman. Her father, tears streaming down his weathered face, placed a gentle kiss on her cheek and whispered a prayer he had said over her countless times throughout her childhood. The hospital chaplain returned to offer prayers and support to the grieving family. His words provided comfort in the midst of overwhelming sorrow, reminding them that Kate's suffering was over and that the love they had shared would continue to live on in their hearts and memories. He spoke about the grace with which Kate had faced her illness and the profound impact her courage had on everyone who witnessed her journey. As dawn broke outside the hospital window, William finally understood that he needed to let go of Kate's hand and begin the process of moving forward without her physical presence. The nursing staff, who had become like family during these difficult weeks, expressed their condolences and shared stories about how Kate's kindness and dignity had touched their lives. Many of them said they had learned something important about love and courage from watching William and Kate together. The next few hours passed in a blur of necessary arrangements and difficult phone calls. William had to notify their children, a conversation that would be one of the hardest of his life. He also needed to contact extended family members and close friends, sharing the news that Kate had passed away peacefully, surrounded by love. Each conversation was painful, but William found strength in sharing memories of Kate's final days and the grace with which she had faced her illness. The outpouring of support from people around the world was overwhelming. Messages of condolence arrived from heads of state, charitable organizations Kate had supported, and ordinary people whose lives she had touched through her work and public service. Each message was a testament to the positive impact Kate had made during her relatively short life, and William found comfort in knowing that her legacy would continue long after her passing. Planning Kate's funeral became both a burden and a blessing for William. It was painful to make decisions about final arrangements, but it also provided an opportunity to celebrate her life and ensure that her memorial service reflected the person she had truly been. He wanted the ceremony to honor not just her public role, but also her private qualities of kindness, humor, and unwavering devotion to family. Their children struggled to understand the finality of their mother's death, and William found himself grieving not just for his own loss, but for all the moments Kate would miss in their lives. Birthdays, graduations, weddings, grandchildren. An entire future had been stolen from them. But he also recognized that Kate's love would continue to guide and support their children through all of these milestones. Even in her physical absence, in the weeks that followed, William discovered that grief was not a destination but a journey, with ups and downs that came without warning. Some days he felt strong and capable of moving forward. Other days, the weight of loss seemed overwhelming. He found comfort in the journal Kate had kept during her illness, filled with letters to their children and reflections on their life together. Her words continued to provide guidance and comfort even after she was gone. The charitable work that had been so important to Kate became a way for William to honor her memory and continue her legacy of service. He established a foundation in her name, focusing on the causes that had been closest to her heart. Working to help others provided a sense of purpose and connection to Kate that helped ease the sharp edges of his grief. Years later, William would look back on those final days in the hospital as some of the most profound of his life. Despite the sadness and loss, he felt grateful for the opportunity to share Kate's final journey with her, to express his love completely, and to witness her courage in the face of death. Their wordless farewell had indeed moved millions around the world, but more importantly, it had demonstrated the power of love to transcend even the greatest challenges life can present. The love story of William and Kate had come to an end, but the impact of their devotion to each other would continue to inspire others for generations to come. In learning to say goodbye with grace and dignity, they had shown the world what true love really meant, not just in the happy moments, but especially in the times when holding on meant learning to let go.